Hi everyone, my name is Sadie Brown and welcome back to my channel. So today is World AIDS Day and I figured that maybe I should do a my HIV story on this here channel. So my name is Sadie Brown and I am a young person living with HIV. I was born with the virus and I only got to find out about my HIV status at the age of 14. So what had happened is that I was in grade 10 and it was just around Youth Day. I can't remember the exact date, but it was definitely not Youth Day. It was around Youth Day, and the school that I was attending at the time was invited to this Youth Day event, and I was the student, the learners who were chosen to go represent the school at the event. So we got there, it's all nice. There were people doing all sort of things. There were people doing dramatic arts, there were musicians, there were dancers, and then came people from this other organization. I don't want to name them because I actually recently saw someone speak about them on Twitter, and it was only then that I realized that they actually still exist, because all this time I've been wondering if they still operate, because I've never really heard much about them ever since. But I know them and I just don't want to mention them here. They said, "Hi guys, this is who we are. We come from this particular organization." I didn't even know what this organization did, right? I didn't know what they worked with. I didn't know anything about anything really. And they told us that, so basically we're here to do voluntary counseling and testing for you guys, and if you would like to have an HIV test is free, so you should just come through. As a 14-year-old, I was not dating. I was very young. I was a child. I was not yet dating. I was not yet having sex. In my mind, in my naive mind, I mean, at grade 10 we already know a lot about HIV. We already know that there are different forms of contracting HIV, but as human beings, because of the stigma that is so associated to HIV, and because of the stigma that is so associated to sex and any conversation that has to do with sexual intercourse, we obviously associate HIV the most with sex, and not just sex but promiscuity. So as a 14-year-old who was a virgin, who was not dating, I obviously thought that my results were going to come back negative, and I went in there naive, and I just thought, let me just do this for the sake of making memories. And yeah, and also I just wanted to sound smart, you know, because I mean, we were definitely going to tell the learners back at school what had happened at our trip. So it was just for me to kind of sound smart, you know, when I go back home and be like, I had an HIV test. I'm like so conscious, so woke, so intelligent. And that was how I had my first HIV test, and that is how my results came back positive. And getting into that room, I did not get pre-test counseling. I did not get that. The lady who was conducting the test, I can still remember it clearly. She literally asked, "What is your name? What is your age? What would you do if you tested negative for HIV?" And my answer to that was, I would continue living. And then she asked, "What would you do if you tested positive for HIV?" And I just said, I would go out into the world and I'd educate people about HIV. Of course, again, I was just saying that to also sound very smart to this woman, like, oh, this child knows a bit about HIV. She is a bit knowledgeable about this thing, and she is literally saying that if her test results came back positive, she would not keep it a secret. And the only reason I had said that is that the year before, so this happened in 2009, right? June. So the year before, 2008, in December, we all know that December is AIDS Awareness Month. I had a magazine that had featured about 10 women who were living with HIV, and I think that was the first time I really read something like that, where literally it was real life stories. I mean, before then I definitely read, like, you know, the fictional stories about people who are living with HIV, or I'd probably see some on TV, but it was the first time I was actually reading real life stories of real life people who were saying we are living with HIV. And I remember being so shocked, and a bit impressed, because in my mind I was just like, who does this, right? I was just like, I feel like they're so courageous, they're so brave, they're so strong. Why would they do this? But also, this is so cool, right? And when I was asked what I would do, of course I said I would go out there and educate people, because I thought of those women, and I also just wanted to sound smart. 10 minutes later, my results came back and they were positive. And that whole brave approach flew right out of the window. I was confused. I was shocked. I could not believe it. I remember the first thing that I said was, that I kept on saying actually was, but I'm just 14 years old. I didn't do anything. Because I was literally so confused. Like, what are you saying? And I think she was also, the lady who was doing the test, she was also quite shocked to find my results, because of the fact that she was, I would like to believe that she was aware that what she had done before testing me, which of course is not giving me the proper counseling as a 14-year-old, she was quite aware of, I would like to believe that she was aware of her mistake. So we were both, I would like to believe that we were both just going through our own things. I'm just like, but I'm just 14, and she's probably there also thinking, oh my goodness, what did I do? I don't know. I can't really think for her. I can speak for her, but that's what I think might have been going through her mind. I came back, so she asked me who I live with, and I was like, no, I live with my aunt. And she was like, okay, and I left. The first thing I wanted to do when I got home was to tell my aunt, but I was so scared. On our way home, I was thinking of this, right? And another thing that had happened is that as soon as I walked out of the room, I found my schoolmates, right? And because we are so young, and I'm having an HIV test at that age is like a big deal. It's like, so just outside of the room, everyone is just like, what are your results? Like, we're just showing each other the report or something. And I walked out and I said, my results are positive. And then, of course, because we were so young, everyone was just like, and then I said, no, I'm kidding, I'm joking. They came back negative. And I came back home, and I didn't cry, I didn't allow myself to react or do anything, because I knew that if I started crying, or if I started doing anything that could, if I did anything out of the normal state of mind, they would definitely know my results. So I just kept everything in, and I went on about my day. On my way home, I wanted to speak to my aunt. I wanted to tell her everything, but I thought, I don't even know where I got this thing from, and if she happens to ask me where I got it from, and I don't even know how, in my mind I was just like, she's gonna be like, you don't even know where you got this thing from. So I kept it to myself, and I decided to just keep it to myself. About a week or 2 weeks later, this thing was forever in my mind. I was always thinking about it, and because now it was literally something that was literally always in my mind, I decided to join the local drama club because I needed a distraction. I joined this local drama club, and at least with that schedule, I was a bit busy. I would go to school. After school, it's drama rehearsals. I'd get home at around 7 p.m. I'd do my schoolwork and sleep. So for the next 5 months or so, I did not have time to be thinking about HIV, AIDS, or death, right? Until December that year. And because December is AIDS Awareness Month, now we had to start doing plays and monologues on HIV and AIDS. And I think that was then that the reality started coming back, because of just the way my friends at the drama club were just portraying HIV, and because we were also young, and I can't really blame them because we genuinely were also young. I just didn't like how they were portraying it, because I now knew this thing that was in my heart, and I was the only one who knew it. And eventually that kind of forced me to want to speak out. And then I told my teacher. She took me home, and we both told my aunt. And my aunt was the one who said, listen, I knew about your mom, I knew about your parents, I just didn't know that you could have been born with HIV. we went to the local clinic because because she just felt like, let's just go for a second opinion. And of course that gave me a bit of hope. We went to the local clinic, had a second test. My results still came back positive, and that was literally when it kind of dawned on me that you are living with HIV. A year later, this was 2010, the drama club closed down, and now I no longer had that outlet or that form of escape where I could that I could like use to kind of forget about this thing. So from 2010 until 2013, I literally pushed the whole HIV thing to the back of my mind. We knew at home, I knew, but we all just stopped talking about it. I also got to find out that I was the only one amongst my siblings who was born with HIV. My parents were already late at the time, so I was just pushing a whole lot of things at the back of my mind. 2013 comes. I am 18 at the time. I had started dating when I was like 16. So 2013 comes. It's 2 years after matric. And as a teenager, I just used to feel like, God, please make sure that I get out of high school and then I can get sick after matric, after high school. Because also the way that HIV has always been portrayed in schools, I don't know if that's still the case now, but back then, even in the media, the way they used to portray the narrative of living with HIV, it literally meant that you get diagnosed with HIV, you spend the rest of your life sick, and then eventually you will die, right? So I kind of waited to get sick and die. That is why I didn't even think I would live to see my 18th birthday. I literally thought, because I finished matric when I was like 16, I literally bargained with God that if I can just see my 16th birthday, if I can just get out of matric, then you can do whatever you need to do with my life, it's fine. Then 2 years after matric, I am living my best life. I am dating. I've completely forgotten about this thing. I think I don't know if I had really forgotten. Well, I had kind of forgotten. Of course, like whenever we would like see something on TV or wherever, that was when I'd like remember. But on a regular day, I just went about my day like nothing was happening. And then in the beginning of 2013, it was like February or March 2013, I started getting sores around my chest. Because March and Feb, it's literally summer, like it's still quite hot. I just thought that it had to do with the heat, right? And I blamed it on the heat, and it kind of made sense to me because I'd stay home and those things would disappear, and I'd go out in the sun and they would start aching and itching and they would appear. So I really thought it had to do with the sun. Not once did I even think that it had to do with HIV or AIDS or anything like that. The year went on, 2013 went on. At around July, it was around July one day, these sores now started going up to my neck, and then eventually they got onto my face. And because now I'm 18 years old and I'm dating and I want to look pretty all the time because so I was just like, no, now I need to like go to the clinic and go get something that will like an ointment that will make these things disappear, because I cannot. That was when I got there and they were like, ma'am, you came here 4 years ago. You tested positive for HIV and you never came back. Well, I did go back because when you test positive, what they do is they take your blood samples to the lab and they test for like the CD4 count and all those things. And I remember my CD4 count at the time was quite okay, and because it was okay at the time, and back then your CD4 count had to be at a certain level before you get on treatment, the nurse literally said, your CD4 count is fine, but here are the pills that you need to take. But she didn't really say that it had to be an ongoing thing. I thought it was a once-off thing, so I took them and I never went back because I genuinely, honestly, it had nothing to do with my denial and everything. I just genuinely thought it was a once-off thing. So she's like, so I got there and they're like, you came here 4 years ago, you tested positive for HIV and you never really came back for like your annual HIV test and all those things, so your health has deteriorated, you need to be on treatment. And I think that was when now reality started really sinking in, that you are living with HIV and now you actually have to be on these ARVs. And I think me having to get on ARVs was the wake-up call that really reminded me that I was living with HIV. And I started thinking of what my friends would say if they start seeing me going to the clinic every month, and then what about these, like what's going on with these pills, how fully, what's happening. So I knew that I kind of needed to start disclosing. I was going through a lot. I was not ready to disclose. I was quite scared of disclosing. I didn't want to disclose. I also felt like, as a teenager, as an 18-year-old who was like dating and stuff, I cared about no longer having people who will like me enough to want to date me with my positive HIV status. So I was quite scared of the whole procedure of having to get on treatment, because I felt like it was literally going to out me. But then I have amazing friends and I used to speak to them all the time. I think also the feelings of resentment and the feelings of betrayal started coming back. I started feeling very betrayed by my parents. I started feeling very resentful towards God, towards my aunt, towards my parents, towards my siblings, because now literally I'm the only one who has this thing and I just didn't see. And I was the only one who had this thing and I just felt like no one could relate to me and I also couldn't really relate to them. So I was just going through a lot and I just had this resentment and I had these feelings of betrayal. I literally felt like no one cared about me. I felt like I just wanted to die, right? And then I got to find out that I think a day before I went to go get my pre-treatment counseling, I went on Google and I searched for the side effects of ARVs. I searched and I don't know what page that is. I landed on some page on Google that said your hair is going to fall off, your teeth are going to fall off, this is going to happen and that is going to happen. And in my mind I was just thinking, but yo guys, I cried so much because I was just like, it feels like the only thing that these pills are going to do to me is make me feel shameful for living with HIV. I felt like I was just being made to feel ashamed of living with HIV. And I remember I texted one of my friends, and I said, whether I die, I'm not taking these pills. I slept. I went to the clinic the next day. I was quite angry because I also felt like everyone was just going to lie to me to try to trick me into taking these pills. I really felt like everyone was just out to betray me and everyone just didn't care about me. So I go to the clinic and I was just like, ma'am, don't lie to me. Don't lie. I have a smartphone. I saw everything on Google. Just be honest with me. I'm going to tell you the facts. I just need you to confirm them. Told her everything and she was just like, ma'am, please let me do my job. And she told me that, yeah, these pills do have side effects. They're not as drastic as you're making them out to be, as this page is making them out to be. And I said, I'm giving these pills 1 month. If I don't see any progress within a month, I'm never coming back. Needless to say that I started seeing good signs. The sores started disappearing over time and I started seeing improvements Of course, this is not something that happens overnight, but I started feeling like these pills were doing something. That is why 7 years later I am still on treatment with a suppressed viral load. So the journey, so then that same year, this happened in like August, right? And yeah, I think it was like the end of July going into the beginning of August, and sometime in September or October that same year, I decided to go on Facebook and disclose. So what I used to do is, because I used to speak to my friends a lot, I was speaking to my friend this other time, and I was so angry because I just felt so failed by my parents, right? I just felt like, so everyone just waited for me to arrive, and now suddenly everyone has HIV. And not just HIV, but now people can just infect me, right? So I was really angry, and my friend said, I feel like you need to go for counseling. And I said, I don't want to speak to anyone who gets paid to listen to me. So no, I don't want to go for counseling. But deep down I knew that I needed some kind of release. I needed to release in some way or another, and I started writing my feelings down. That is how I ended up writing the letter to HIV. There's a line in my letter where I say, because of you there goes my happy days, because of you there goes my happiness, because of you there goes my relationship with God, and because of you I feel less pretty. And when I wrote that particular line, I stopped writing and I cried so much. And I think a week or 2 weeks later I decided to just post that thing on Facebook. This was in 2013. I posted it on Facebook. Of course, there was some loving people who were supportive. There were also some people who were quite resistant to this thing that I was now doing, because also I was so young. I like to believe that a lot of people were just young, right? So they didn't really understand what I was doing. Some thought I was doing it for attention. So I was just fine with it, because I knew that I wanted to do it for my own personal healing. I kept on doing it. 2014, there used to be poetry sessions that used to happen here in Itsoseng. I went there one day and I read this letter. I cried again in front of an audience, and I never read that letter again until like 2017, which was 3 years later. And I read that letter at the South African AIDS conference. We opened that conference with my letter, and for the first time ever I could read that letter without feeling triggered, and I could read that letter without crying, and I was so proud of myself. And I mean, even after because I think around 2015 I had already started feeling like I am becoming myself again. I am getting better. But because I had now a following of these other people who followed me because they wanted to know about my journey, and they would also inbox me their issues. So even when I had felt like I was okay and I needed to like stop posting about my HIV status, I couldn't really stop. It now stopped being just about me and became about every other person who was living with HIV, who kept on inboxing me about their own issues. And that is how I started now genuinely advocating for people who are living with HIV. And that is how I also started advocating for myself as a person who's living with HIV. And that is how I started fighting so hard for that 14-year-old Sadie Brown, who was so scared of telling her aunt, who was so scared of this monster that was HIV, who was so scared and so confused and didn't really know what was happening. I started advocating for that Sadie Brown. I started advocating for my parents, because I could also imagine their situation. I can't really, because I've never had this conversation with them. I've never had the liberty to, but I can just imagine how they felt, knowing, if they even knew, you know. I remember growing up, I used to be that child who was like always sick in school. I would like come back early because I was sick. They'd come fetch me because I was sick. And Now that I know better, and now when I try to think of them, I remember just how terrified they would look. But of course, at that time and at that age, I just thought they were just worried because they are my parents. But now that I know better, I would like to believe that they probably knew something or they suspected something. So HIV has done a lot. It has taken our families, it has taken our loved ones and you don't have to just be infected to be affected by the implications and the ramifications of what HIV and AIDS has done to our families, to our communities, to our loved ones, and to everyone that we love. And I do believe that the onus is upon us to destigmatize HIV, and we have to keep on doing it, and doing it for our own selves, not for anyone's comfort, not for anyone's satisfaction, but just for us to be able to say, hey, we are living with HIV, but it does not change anything about me. It does not need to change anything about my story. It doesn't need to change anything about my future. I can live a normal, healthy life with HIV. Thank you so much.